Tonight, welcome to another Bodo Discussion, this time with just me and Mitchell. So, Mitchell, last time we said we were going to review Moonlight, so since we're reviewing Moonlight, what's Moonlight about?
Moonlight is about the story of a young kid, basically through 3 parts of his life, growing up in a troubled neighborhood, being gay and being just like in a black neighborhood, and it's just the story of how 3 different parts of his life really show kind of how the situation around him affects him and how the way that's turned him into a certain person. It stars Mahershala Ali, Naomi Harris, and 3 separate actors who also play who played the main character of Little.
Yeah, his name's
Chiron. His name is Chiron. He plays Chiron, nicknamed Little, in the first couple parts of this, throughout the whole movie. And it's just, there's also another actor who plays a childhood friend of his who reappears later on in the movie, who does a great job. And I'm just gonna come out and say this is quite possibly the best movie of the year. This movie has been praised all around for great reasons. The directing is brilliant. The acting is amazing across everyone. Oscar nominated actors should be nominated. It is directed amazingly, written incredibly well, great cinematography, a really haunting and chilling score, and just everything about this movie just screams like masterpiece. Just crazy well done. Yeah. This movie's just has ridiculously tight script, ridiculously well done characters, and every line of dialogue that someone says is just done. It's just the exact amount. It's very minimal in that every line of dialogue is exactly what you need to hear to understand what they have as a character and no more.
And also the fact that, you know how usually we go a lot, that Moonlight, much like Hacksaw Ridge, has been getting a lot of praise, Oscar buzz. But for me, unlike Hacksaw Ridge, this one I actually understand. I really do understand why a lot of people love it. It's mostly because it's not really this. When you do look at it, it doesn't really have too much of a story. It's more so a series of events. You know what I mean?
It's mostly, it's very much. It doesn't feel as contrived as Hacksaw Ridge was very much a plot that was just kind of exactly from the start. You knew where it was going, and you knew that each plot point A was there just to get to B and C. But this movie feels a whole lot more natural, and yet the screenplay is clearly every single line of dialogue and every single part that takes place in the story is exactly what causes the characters to act how they do.
For me, the best thing is that, if you know how the big thing about that Chiron is gay. Yeah. If this was handed to a much lesser director, they would have made it as obvious as inhumanely possible. They would have just beat your head.
Are we doing spoilers? Are we going?
Yeah, we're going into spoilers.
So in depth, I think a really good showing of this great minimal dialogue is the scene where Chiron is basically he asks somebody calls him the F word, not fuck, the other F word. He calls him that. So somebody calls him that, and he asks basically what that means, and that's basically that's just the way that the young actor, who does amazing job, by the way.
He doesn't say a lot, but he conveys a lot through his expressions.
Yeah, the young actor who plays Chiron, just through him asking that and the sort of kind of difficult response he gets from Mahershala Ali, who's the local drug dealer who's taking care of him right now,
and here's
his wife. It's just great, how they just the way they can show how tough someone's life can
It's
be.
also the fact that when you really first dig it down, that he looks up to a drug dealer as a father figure. But this guy's probably one of the most endearing drug dealers I've ever seen.
Yeah.
In fact, honestly, he's a much better parental figure than his mom.
And I think his last scene alone is Oscar-worthy, just where Chiron, in very plain terms, just asks him, "Does my mom do you sell drugs?" And then immediately after he does that, he knows exactly what the question is: "Does my mom sell drugs?" And Mahershala Ali just does my mom do drugs? I can't remember what the order was.
I think he said, "Does my mom do drugs?"
Yeah, no, I know that. What was that? Either way, he asked those 2 questions, just the way that Mahershala Ali just kind of stares at the table in front of him and isn't able to answer. That's just an amazing, and sad conclusion to his character. And speaking of his mother, Naomi Harris absolutely gives what I think is the best performance of the year.
Yeah, and
she's
also
just so great.
In my opinion, is that her character is basically very similar to Hugo Weaving, Hacksaw Ridge, except
somewhat.
The problem is that you know how me and Mitchell complained about how Hugo Weaving Hacksaw Ridge was ridiculously over the top and hamming it up.
They did a good job of making her outbursts as they restrain them back for certain scenes and they really let them fly out at certain times.
Yeah, it's mostly because she's incredible. She's a bad parent, mostly because she's incredibly verbally abusive to her son, and also pretty much neglects him for most of his childhood.
Yeah, the kid who plays for Chiron in the first part, he just does a great job with facial expressions, and because he doesn't have a whole lot of dialogue, but he just very minimally just kind of tells you what's happening, and then. In the second part of the movie is basically his life as a teenager, and it's really well done too. He basically just gets into he meets one of the other boys and becomes close friends with him and starts doing some stuff with him. And anyway, and at which point he goes on to that boy through a bully has to start fighting him, and he basically just gets angry. And just the scene where Chiron comes up with the chair and just attacks the kid. It just felt so real and not overly melodramatic.
Yeah, it's just the fact that the issue here is that it doesn't try to is that the whole thing is that if this is the fact that you know how in a lot of these religious movies and all these terrible movies they try to make it look like these people are just being misunderstood and everyone else they're the ones to be blamed.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, in the movie they don't make this bully an antagonist. They don't make
him a character. He has a very pretty minor role, but they make him incredibly real.
Yeah, it's not like Hacksaw Ridge where they basically shove in the whole, killing is bad, all that. They shove that all down your throat and wars, how all that. This movie, it gives you more subtle hints to it, but doesn't fully beat you on the head. It gives you these great moments where you get the whole the idea without being told to you.
The first two parts of the movie definitely do an amazing job of just showing what the effect of where someone grows up and the people they're grown up with.
For me, the best part was seeing. For me, I'll say my favorite scene, as you said, was when when he's talking to Mashallah Ali, asking how could they keep calling me and should I say this word?
No, you can just. I said it's the F word that isn't.
Yeah,
fuck.
the F word. That's
not fuck. It's I don't know. Smart. Y'all are smart people.
Yeah, it's basically and it's very much kind of. It's both because the fact that because the fact that to me you also kind of do a great job developing his friendship with his friend.
Yeah. I think before we go into anything else, the one scene that got me from kind of sitting back and watching the movie did very much like I was leaning in for the entire movie after I saw the scene is the scene where Naomi Harris, not to keep bringing her up, just explodes on Marshall Ali, who by the way is dealing her drugs, and once he finds out, he gets up and says she just goes off on him and just kind of talks about you're selling me these drugs. What are you gonna raise this kid? And it's just brutal to watch, and it's just painful, and it's just so raw. And
it's just because they do a good job at making the mom just incredibly unlikable when you first see her, because she's just because when you first finally see her, because as a parent she's pretty awful. She doesn't physically abuse, she verbally abuses him. She kind of basically neglects him.
I really love the part where they, if you were talking about how in other, Oscar bait movies, they show how he gets yelled at and screamed at. I love how they just kind of made it silent for so much of the movie. They'd show that scene, and then when they'd reverse it back at the end of the second part, they'd show how he screamed at her. And that's how we get it. And that just was a great way to show how, all this screaming and all this hate and how, everything that happened in his life led to him hitting that, hitting the bully with the chair. And that's a great segue into what I thought was the best part of this movie, the third act.
Third act's really good.
Kind of that maybe, this movie is great throughout and every single scene matters, but I think everything between the adult version of Chiron and the adult version of his childhood friend, every interaction they have, the way the dialogue is written, the way that they kind of sit on certain questions and sit on certain information, the way that each actor kind of plays off each other, it's just incredibly well done. That whole last act of the movie is the best span of time of anything in this year.
Yeah, it's definitely a great moment, both because it's a scene where these two friends who haven't seen each other in years just reconnect with
as much
each
as this
other.
movie is about how kind of the people around you can kind of hurt you and how the sort of the area you grew up in, it's also about how like the certain people in your life who bring you out of that, like the drug dealer character, or like this other character. And this was just really well done to kind of this third part where Chiron finally connects with someone and how they just kind of inch that out word by word, like where he asks like what he's doing here, and when Chiron reveals he's a drug dealer. And I think my favorite thing in the movie is when he reveals he's a drug dealer, and his friend character basically asks him, says like, no, like I know you, and he says no you don't, and then he walks away, and they let you sit with that information because whenever any important line of dialogue happens in this movie, they let you sit with it for a minute, and then they let the tension build more, and then they answer that with the next bit of information.
In fact, for me, my favorite moment of the third act is when he's reconnecting with his mother, because in the scene because throughout the most of the film, the mom basically is kind of a pretty disgusting and awful human being. Like, she's a drug addict, she's neglectful to Chiron, and she verbally abuses him, and basically, and not to mention, and also the fact that, to me, you feel more. And when the two finally connect with them, it feels human. You know what I mean?
It does a great job of just showing how like people legitimately connect, like how they showed the two characters, the two older, like how they met up in the diner, Chiron and his childhood friend, how they kind of slowly are able to connect through the time that they're with each other, and just the metaphor of like what Moonlight means, what that really means about being who you are and being, kind of changing and being different.
Yeah, and also
different lights.
For me, the final shot of the film was fantastic. Where you see a young Chiron on the beach alone.
Yeah.
What do you think that shot symbolizes?
It's just very much about Moonlight, about him finally kind of being accepting and running along in the moonlight and feeling different and being okay with that. I think everything about this movie is great. When when a movie starts with the same opening music as To Pimp a Butterfly starts with, how they both started with that sample of an older song. I knew we were in for a great movie. This turned to just get better every minute. It just kept getting better and better. This is one of, if not the best movies of the year, and this one is definitely earned a 10 out of 10. I don't know if I've given a perfect score to any other movies. I don't think any of those movies quite deserve it.
I'm probably going to give it like a 9.5, just because I gave that 10 out of 10 to The Lobster, which to me kind of spoke me just a little bit more, even though I acknowledge it's not a very easy movie to recommend.
And this movie isn't incredibly easy to watch, but it's definitely a brilliant movie.
It's more easy to watch than The Lobster, I'll say that.
So we got our thoughts on Rogue One.
Yeah, we're going to be doing that very soon. I got some interesting thoughts, and he has some interesting thoughts, and expect the three of us to bicker a lot. And
it's going to be like a semi-bickering one. We've had a lot of great movies. We've been lucky with a bunch of great movies in the past kind of couple weeks or almost like months even. So it's not quite like that. We got another big Star Wars movie, so Moonlight's great. Everybody go check it out.
Check out Moonlight.
Watch it.
So we'll see you for Rogue One.
Peace out.
Take care.